It was the chocolate that really got the attention here. Okay, so you've heard this story before. What is manna? What is it? Food. What is it? I mean, I heard bread. They talk about dew. Some places talk coriander, but what is it? Nourishment. Okay. See, in Hebrew, the language that the Bible was written in, the word manna literally means, what is it? Thank you. There's our Hebrew teacher back there. It's really, it's not even a full word. It's like a hint in the sentence that this is a question. It's the closest thing I can think of is in Spanish. Where does the question mark go? In the front, right? In English, we put it in the back, and you have a whole sentence, and it's a question. In Spanish, it's like right up front, we're going to ask a question. Manna, that word can show up anywhere in the sentence, but it means there's a question here. So, whatever there might have been literally in the campground, whether it's some natural food or whether it's some holy miracle, whatever are the details of this story, the point of the story, I think, is this. When the Hebrew people were fed up with their hike in the wilderness, when they were done, when they were most uncertain about God, when they expressed their frustration, when they yelled out their doubt, God's response was more questions and fewer answers. More questions, fewer answers. Which is so annoying in my life. Just imagine, okay, some of you got kids in the back seat. You're on a long journey. You've driven from here to Kansas City or some place like that, and you're halfway there, and the kids said, what does the kids say? Okay, now imagine you said back to your child, what there are you looking for in your heart? Kind of, I'll go back to my trail mix. Or imagine, last year you saw God working in your life. You had some stuff. God was there, really touched you, but you haven't noticed that for a long while. You haven't felt that presence. So you don't even call it a prayer. There's just something. You don't even put words on it, but somehow your spirit says to the universe, God, are you real? And the response is, who do you think you're talking to right now? After a lifetime of feeling no control over who you are, with no sense of a future, and now, imagine that you are faced all of a sudden with a total freedom, as fearful and exciting as it can be. And you say, where are we going? Imagine if the universe turned back and said, what if we're going right here, closer to here? See, questions can be annoying, but mystery can be enriching. It is natural, whether you're a kid, whether you're an adult, to want answers. We want clarity. We want stability with knowledge. Our brains are literally built for that. The neurochemistry is literally built for that. And sometimes we deserve answers. But other times, especially when it comes to the really deep things of life, the transition points, sometimes wisdom is about asking better questions rather than finding decent answers. Better questions is a holy act. Better questions is what God is giving these people who are complaining and grumbling and riled up and asking. God is giving them better questions. Now, I'm not saying this is a forever and always kind of a thing, but sometimes even if you knew why, how many times in your life have you just said, why did this happen? It doesn't make sense. Why? Now, would that really soothe all the feelings, all the wonder, if you got an answer to why? Why did she get sick? Why did he leave? Why did I do that again and again? Okay? There may be answers, but sometimes I think a good question unfolds rather than closing up in a tiny box. So why did she get sick? Well, that might unfold into a new question. What can I do to support her or honor her? Why do I care about her in the first place? What has she meant to me in the past, and what can she mean to me now? Is there anything about her that I can carry on? When God's light has shined through her, how has that brought me closer to a loving spirit? And can that light shine continually even if her candle has burned out? The beauty of the Exodus story to me, it's not the miracle of bread, do stuff to me. It's that at the moment of exasperation, God gives the Hebrew people exactly what they need, which is exactly what they do not want. And praise God when she has done the same for me. I mean, how many times has God said no to your desires, even good desires, which you discover later there's a deeper, fuller sense of well-being for who you are and for the community. Now, I won't say I always like that. I won't say I'm always comforted by mystery, especially when I'm hurt or I'm confused. I can get pretty angry at God when I cannot fathom a kingdom of love and how that could possibly grow. How could a kingdom of love unfold in the world of hate and cruelty that we live in now? How? But A, God can handle your complaining. God's big enough to handle your griping. God's love is way bigger than however much God gets frustrated at how we might act. B, whether we get the response that we want or not, whether we are open enough to notice a holy softening in our heart, whatever we feel in these crisis moments, we can know that God's presence is near. We can prepare ourselves to enter these places of frustration and doubt with the full capacity to know that we are not alone. Some of us go the next step. So that's just like spirituality. Some of us go the next step, and we really believe that all things will be summed up for good, which does not mean that all things are good. But some of us believe that all that bad stuff, there's still some meaning to that and a greater purpose in all of this suffering. Some of us believe that, and it gives us hope. C, for these Hebrew people, at their boiling point, when they're so mad they're really mad at Moses and Aaron, but Moses and Aaron say, you're really mad at God. It's mingled up there. Like in you too, when you're really mad at God, you're probably mad at the hospital, or you're mad at yourself, or you're mad at somebody else. But for them, God gave them not just manna, but baskets of manna. And if you listen close, read between the lines, God said, go pick up the 2 quarts, but don't pick up too much or it will go bad, which is God's way of saying, I'm not going to give you more than you can handle. I'm going to give you the questions, but I'm not going to overwhelm you with this mystery. Now, good therapists know how to do that. A good therapist knows how to lead you step by step. Good teachers know how to do that with kids. You don't start 3rd grade and start learning calculus. You take steps in a direction. And you might know that when it's simply important to just stop and grieve and gripe before you're ready to come back to trust and hope. But if you're the kind of person who's literal about the Bible, fine. Maybe there was some dewy, flaky substance. Maybe the quail did land there. That's great. Some people, Bible scholars, think that the manna, the literal stuff, it was the dried spit of locusts after they chewed on the plants. Would you like to be sustained for 40 years by the dried spit of, it's kind of gross. Others just think it's a miracle. It's like this magical substance God shoots down. I don't know. I wasn't there. Some people think it was some natural substance, and somebody said, what is it? Manna. And so the question just stuck, and it was named, what is it? Because someone was pointing there. Or maybe the whole thing is just a metaphor, not about any historical Hebrew people or any actual bread, but more about our real doubts, our flesh and blood complaints, our literal need for metaphorical daily bread. All I know is that in the story, when they came to the point, and when we come to the same point of wondering, what does this all mean? What is the point of all of this? When they came to second-guessing their lives and their decisions, and when we feel anxiety about the now and so much guilt about the past, all I know about this story is that when we come to those places, God may still send more questions, because God might know that this is a good way to break through our despair, to break through our anger, to break through our patterns of boredom, to break through our reliance on old ways of thinking that just don't serve us the way they have before. And given that, the Hebrews had a choice, and we have a choice. When we get most bewildered about life and how to fit together forgiveness and truth and salvation and kindness in a world that seems so dominated by domination and revenge and lies and cruelty. When we are most puzzled by how God works in our life, we have a choice. We can continue to complain and look back on those times when we knew that everything was simple and religion was simple, which really means we were simple. Or we can go pick up the question that God has sprinkled throughout this whole world and through our hearts, and let those questions sustain us and lead us. Because living in faith is not about certainty, but often happens so much more richly with uncertainty. Because confidence in God is not about asserting what we think we know, but it's about open wonder in how to trust and how to search for the Spirit. My guess is that thousands of years later, when Jesus invented this thing called church, he never sat around and said, I think I'm going to find the people who will believe in this sentence, that sentence, and believe that I am this and that. He never decided to create a group of people who would agree about anything or agree to disagree about anything else. That's just not in the Bible anywhere. When Jesus saw people who were going to deeply have questions their whole life, he invited the most messy people, the Peters and the Mary Magdalens and us, to work out what we feel about what we understand about God before we ever decide to believe in whatever it is that we do believe. And that means if you hear nothing else today, you have permission to have questions. That's the journey we're on. Is that good news? I mean, for some of you, maybe. Maybe it sounds like freedom. Maybe it sounds like too much freedom. You'd like some answers. But either way, my hope is that we can journey together and comfort each other in doubt, and eventually, when the time is right, trust even more deeply in the mystery of God. Amen.